Millionaire went with his fiancée for her engagement makeup, froze when the artist was his ex, holding a daughter. Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Mr. Peter Stories, your own family story channel. Heavenly God, we come before you with humble hearts. Please pour your mercy upon every soul listening today. Cover every woman in this family with divine strength, deep peace, and unshakable dignity. Let her never feel weak, forgotten, or alone. Bless her health, calm her worries, and reward her silent sacrifices. She is the heartbeat of the family, the quiet force behind every smile, and the light that holds generations together. Lord, bless every home here with unity, protect every heart from pain, and replace stress with hope. Heal what is unseen, lift what is heavy, and guide us with your wisdom. Let love grow stronger, faith deeper, and tomorrow brighter than today. My family, if your heart is true, stay with me. If your love is real, let it be felt. We rise together, we pray together, and we stand together, always. The jasmine-scented air of Radiant Studio should have calmed Tabitha Saville's nerves, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking as she lined up her brushes for the 10th time. Something felt wrong this morning. Not wrong like a missed appointment or a shipment delay, wrong like the universe was holding its breath before a scream. Mama, why do you keep moving the same brushes? Sabrina's voice drifted from the back room, sweet and curious in that way only 5-year-olds managed, like the world was still a puzzle they were excited to solve rather than exhausted by. Just making sure everything's perfect, baby girl, Tabitha called back, forcing brightness into her voice. Perfect. She'd built her entire life around that word. Perfect makeup applications, perfect client reviews, perfect schedule that let her pick Sabrina up from kindergarten every single day at 3:15, perfect bank account that had actual money in it now instead of overdraft notices and prayer. 6 years. 6 years since she'd been a terrified 23-year-old throwing up every morning, Googling, "Can you be pregnant if?" at 2 in the morning, practicing in the bathroom mirror how to tell the man she loved that their lives were about to change forever. 6 years since she'd stood in their tiny apartment holding a positive pregnancy test while he packed his designer luggage and explained why loving her wasn't enough anymore. The door chimed. Tabitha's spine straightened automatically, her professional smile sliding into place like armor. Saturday mornings meant wealthy brides, women who booked trials months in advance and arrived in cars that cost more than most people's houses. She'd fought for every single one of these clients, built her reputation brush stroke by brush stroke, transformed herself from the girl who couldn't afford groceries into the woman every bride in the city wanted touching their face. Good morning. Welcome to Radiance. The world stopped, not slowed. Stopped. Like someone had reached into her chest and squeezed her heart until time itself froze. Mackenzie Harvey stood in her doorway. 6 years vanished like they'd never existed. She was 23 again, her hand on her still flat stomach, watching the man she loved walk away with his goodbye already packed in expensive suitcases. She was in the hospital alone, holding a screaming newborn with his eyes while nurses asked where the father was, and she had to say, "I don't know," because it was true. She had no idea where he'd gone, what he was doing, if he ever thought about her at all. He'd filled out. His shoulders were broader, his jaw sharper, his suit the kind that whispered money instead of shouting it. Success looked good on him. It made her want to vomit all over his perfectly polished shoes. Welcome to Radiant Studio. The words came from somewhere outside her body, professional and smooth and completely empty. You must be my 10 o'clock. The woman attached to his arm looked like old money and good breeding, all honey blonde hair and pearls and a smile that had never known real fear. Her left hand sparkled with a diamond that could probably pay Tabitha's rent for a year. Elsa Hunter, the woman said, extending that glittering hand. This is my fiancée, Mackenzie Harvey. We're getting married in 3 months and you come so highly recommended. My wedding planner absolutely insisted you were the only one who could give me the look I want. Fiancée. The word hit like a slap, like a joke, like the universe laughing at the girl who'd believed in forevers. Tabitha shook Elsa's hand, her eyes finally dragging to Mackenzie's face. He'd gone white, shock and recognition, and something that looked like horror bleeding across his features. His mouth opened slightly, closed, opened again. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Good. She hoped he felt like he was drowning. She hoped his lungs were burning the way hers had burned every night for the first year, crying so hard she couldn't breathe while her infant daughter screamed and screamed and screamed. "I'm honored," Tabitha said, her voice steady as stone. "Please have a seat, Elsa. I'll need to ask about your vision, your dress, your venue. Mackenzie, you're welcome to wait in the lounge. There's coffee and current magazines." "I'd like him to stay." Elsa settled into the consultation chair like she belonged there, like she belonged everywhere. "I value his opinion on absolutely everything. We don't make decisions without each other." Partners. Tabitha wondered if Elsa knew how fast partners became strangers, how easy it was to wake up alone. "Of course," Tabitha murmured, pulling out her consultation form with hands that wanted to shake but refused to give him the satisfaction. "Tell me about your dress." 20 minutes of torture. 20 minutes of listening to Elsa describe lace and silk and the difference between ivory and champagne, while Mackenzie sat in the corner chair gripping the armrests like he was trying not to fall off the edge of the world. 20 minutes of pretending her heart wasn't trying to beat its way out of her chest, of acting like the man who'd destroyed her wasn't sitting 3 feet away planning his future with someone else. "Mama! No! No, no, no!" Sabrina burst through the doorway, purple butterfly clips sliding sideways in her dark curls, waving a piece of construction paper covered in crayon flowers. "Mama, look! I drew our house, the big one we're gonna have someday with the garden you promised." 5 years old and perfect, and everything good Tabitha had ever done with her life. Tabitha watched Mackenzie's face as he looked at Sabrina, really looked at her, watched his eyes go wide, watched him stop breathing, watched mathematics and memory and recognition crash into him like a tidal wave. Sabrina had his mother's eyes, that specific hazel that shifted between green and gold, depending on the light. The eyes, Mackenzie used to say, were the most beautiful he'd ever seen. She had his smile, slightly crooked on the left. She had his stubborn chin, the one he'd inherited from his father. She was 5 years old. He'd left 6 years ago. The math was simple and brutal and impossible to deny. "That's beautiful, sweet girl," Tabitha managed, her voice somehow normal, somehow not screaming. "Go finish coloring it and we'll put it on the fridge tonight." "Okay," Sabrina beamed at the strangers, all innocence and joy. "Hi, I'm Sabrina. Are you getting married? Mama does the best wedding makeup in the whole city. She's magic." "Hello, Sabrina." Elsa's voice was warm, genuinely kind. "What a lovely name. And thank you. I'm sure your mama will make me beautiful." "You're already beautiful," Sabrina said with 5-year-old honesty. "Mama says everyone's already beautiful inside. She just helps them see it on the outside, too." She skipped back to her coloring, completely unaware that she'd just set fire to everything. Elsa kept talking, something about foundation and natural light and photography, but Tabitha couldn't hear her anymore, over the roaring in her ears. She nodded and smiled and took notes automatically, while Mackenzie sat frozen, his eyes locked on the doorway where Sabrina had disappeared, like he was seeing a miracle and a car crash at the same time. The consultation ended, deposit collected, appointment booked. Elsa excused herself to the restroom. Tabitha found herself alone with the ghost of her past. "Tabitha," his voice cracked like breaking glass. "Don't." She didn't look up from her appointment book. "Don't say one word." "Is she—" He couldn't even finish the question. "Your client needs you," Tabitha said, her pen pressing so hard into the paper it tore straight through. "The Belmont Grand, 3 months from now. I'll make sure your fiancée looks perfect for her special day." "Please, I need to know." She looked at him then, and whatever he saw in her eyes made him flinch like she'd struck him. "You need to know." Her voice was quiet, deadly. "You need answers. You need to understand. You need to make yourself feel better about the choices you made." "I didn't know." "No," she agreed, and her smile was all edges. "You didn't know, because you walked out before I could tell you. You left before I could show you the test. You packed your bags and gave me your speech about timing and your father's expectations and different paths while I had your daughter growing inside me. So, no, Mackenzie, you didn't know. But that's not the same as it not being your fault." Elsa's heels clicked in the hallway. Mackenzie's voice dropped to desperate. "Tabitha, please, just tell me." "See you in 3 months, Tabitha said pleasantly as Elsa appeared. "I'll send you a preparation email 2 weeks before with everything you need to know." She walked them to the door, smiled, waved, locked it behind them. Then she made it to the bathroom before she started shaking so hard she had to sit on the floor. Sabrina found her there 5 minutes later. "Mama, why are you crying?" "Happy tears, baby girl," Tabitha lied, pulling her daughter into her arms. "Just happy tears." Through the bathroom window, she watched Mackenzie's black car pull away, watched him disappear back into whatever perfect life he'd built without her. She wondered if he'd ever looked back before. She wondered if seeing Sabrina would make him look back now. She wondered if it would matter either way, because the truth was simple and brutal. He'd had his chance to be her person 6 years ago. He'd chosen to leave, and no amount of shock or regret or mathematical certainty about paternity could change the fact that when she'd needed him most, he'd walked away without looking back. Now he could live with that. Forever. Chapter 2. When the past becomes present tense. Tabitha couldn't sleep. 2 in the morning and she was staring at her ceiling, listening to Sabrina's soft breathing from the other bed in their shared room, trying not to think about hazel eyes and expensive suits, and the way Mackenzie's face had gone white when he'd looked at their daughter. Their daughter. 6 years of referring to Sabrina as my daughter in her head, and suddenly the possessive had shifted. There. Like he had any claim. Like he'd earned the right to that pronoun. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. "Please don't block this. I know I have no right to contact you. I know I don't deserve answers, but I'm begging you. Is she mine?" Tabitha stared at the text until the words blurred. Her fingers hovered over the screen, 1,000 responses fighting in her throat. "Yes, she's yours, and you missed everything. Yes, she's yours, and I hate you for it. Yes, she's yours, and she asks about her daddy sometimes. And I have to lie and say he's far away because the truth that he chose to be far away would break her heart." She deleted the message without responding and blocked the number. Sleep never came. Saturday afternoon meant Sabrina's dance class, meant sitting with the other mothers in the waiting area while tiny ballerinas twirled in the studio beyond the glass. Tabitha usually loved this hour, the normalcy of it, the way it made her feel like maybe she was doing okay at this single mother thing after all. Today she couldn't focus on anything except the memory of Mackenzie's face. "You look exhausted," her friend Raina said, sliding into the seat beside her. Raina's daughter Jasmine was Sabrina's best friend, and Raina herself was the closest thing Tabitha had to family in this city. "Rough week?" "Something like that." Raina studied her with the knowing eyes of someone who'd survived her own share of man-related disasters. "This the kind of rough that needs wine, or the kind that needs something stronger?" "The kind that needs a time machine." "That bad?" Tabitha watched Sabrina attempt a pirouette, her face scrunched in concentration. "You remember how I told you about Sabrina's father, how he left before I knew I was pregnant? The coward who abandoned you." "Yeah, I remember wanting to key his car even though I've never met him. He walked into my studio yesterday with his fiancée for a wedding makeup trial." Raina's jaw actually dropped. "You're joking." "I wish I was." "Did he see Sabrina?" "He saw Sabrina." Tabitha's voice cracked. "Raina, You should have seen his face when he figured it out, like someone had shot him. Good. I hope it hurt. He texted me last night asking if she's his. What did you say? Nothing. I blocked him. Raina was quiet for a long moment. You gonna tell him eventually? Why should I? The words came out sharper than Tabitha intended. He doesn't get to show up 6 years later and suddenly want to be involved. He doesn't get to walk back into our lives because it's convenient now. I'm not saying he deserves anything, Raina said carefully. I'm saying Sabrina might ask questions someday, and maybe having answers ready is better than being caught off guard. Tabitha's phone buzzed. Different unknown number. I know you blocked me. I deserve that. I deserve worse than that. But Tabitha, please, I need to know. Is Sabrina mine? And if she is, can we please talk? Just talk. I'm not asking for rights or time or anything except the truth. Please. Her hands were shaking again. She hated that he could still make her hands shake. He's texting from a different number, she told Raina. Block that one too, or... Raina hesitated. Or maybe just tell him the truth and make it clear that's all he gets. The truth. Nothing else. Tabitha's fingers moved before her brain could stop them. Yes, she's yours. And no, we can't talk. You made your choice 6 years ago. I made mine when I held her alone in the hospital and realized I was the only parent she was ever going to need. Lose this number too. Send. The response came within seconds. I understand. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I need you to know I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to fight for the chance to know her, to be what I should have been from the beginning. Block every number I have. I'll find other ways. I'm not leaving again. Tabitha stared at the message, ice flooding her veins. What did he say? Raina asked. He says he's going to fight for her. Can he? Legally? I don't know. Tabitha's voice was barely a whisper. He's not on the birth certificate. I never filed for child support. As far as the law's concerned, he doesn't exist. But if he pushes for a paternity test, then get a lawyer, now, before he does. Dance class ended. Sabrina ran over, flushed and happy, completely unaware that her world might be about to implode. Mama, did you see my pirouette? Miss Stephanie said it was almost perfect. It was beautiful, baby girl. Tabitha pulled her into a hug that was too tight, too desperate. You're absolutely beautiful. That night, after Sabrina was asleep, Tabitha pulled out the box from the top of her closet. The box she'd never opened in 5 years. Inside, hospital bracelets from Sabrina's birth, her first footprints, a onesie that said Daddy's Girl that Tabitha had bought the week before Mackenzie left, tags still attached. And at the bottom, in a manila envelope, the check Mackenzie's father had tried to give her when she'd finally worked up the courage to call him 3 months pregnant, desperate and alone. $50,000, made out to Tabitha Saville. Memo line, mutual understanding. She'd never cashed it, never even touched it after she'd picked it up off the restaurant table where Gregory Harvey had slid it across like she was a problem to be solved with money. My son has a future, he'd said, his voice polite and cold as January. A future that has been carefully planned since he was born. You're a lovely girl, I'm sure, but you're not part of that plan. This is generous. Take it and move on with your life. She'd left it sitting there on the table, walked out with her head high and her heart in pieces. But she'd gone back the next day and taken it. Not to cash, never to cash. To remember. To prove to herself someday that she'd been worth more than the price Gregory Harvey had put on her dignity. Now she pulled out her phone and took a picture of the check, front and back. Then she texted it to Mackenzie's latest number before she could talk herself out of it. Your father offered me this when I was 3 months pregnant. $50,000 to disappear. I never cashed it, but I kept it. So you'd know exactly what your family thought I was worth. What your daughter was worth. Before you start talking about fighting for her, remember that check. Remember what you come from. Remember that you walked away without being paid to do it. She didn't wait for a response. She turned off her phone and lay down next to her sleeping daughter and tried to remember how to breathe. 3 days passed. Tabitha threw herself into work, filling her schedule with consultations and color corrections and anything that kept her hands busy and her mind occupied. She didn't check her messages. She didn't answer calls from unknown numbers. She existed in a bubble of bronzer and foundation and the familiar rhythm of brush against skin. Tuesday afternoon, her receptionist Kira knocked on the studio door during a client appointment. "I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here who says it's urgent. He says his name is Mackenzie Harvey, and he'll wait as long as it takes, but he needs to speak with you." Tabitha's hand stilled mid-contour. Her client, a tech executive with a conference presentation the next day, looked at her with concern. "You okay?" the woman asked. "Fine," Tabitha lied. "Give me just a moment." She stepped into the hallway. Mackenzie stood in her waiting area, still wearing a suit that cost more than she used to make in 3 months, looking like he hadn't slept since she'd last seen him. "Get out," she said quietly. "I saw the check." "I said get out. My father did that without my knowledge." His voice was raw, scraped clean of any polish. "I swear to you, Tabitha, I had no idea he'd contacted you. I had no idea about any of it. Your ignorance isn't an excuse. It's just more evidence that you didn't care enough to check." "You're right." He took a step closer, and she took one back. "You're absolutely right. I was a coward. I let my father control my life. I let fear control my choices. I walked away from the best thing that ever happened to me because I wasn't strong enough to fight for it." "This isn't a movie," Tabitha said, her voice shaking with rage. "You don't get to show up with pretty speeches and expect forgiveness. I'm not asking for forgiveness." His eyes were red-rimmed, desperate. "I'm asking for a chance. Not with you, I know I destroyed that, but with Sabrina. Please, Tabitha, I'm begging you, let me know my daughter." "No. I'll take you to court." The words hung in the air between them like a threat, like violence, like a promise. Tabitha smiled, and it was terrible. "Do it. Take me to court. Fight for your parental rights, and I will tell everyone, the judge, the lawyers, the court reporter, exactly who you are. I'll tell them about the check. I'll tell them how you walked away. I'll tell them that you knew about Sabrina for less than a week before threatening legal action instead of earning the privilege of being in her life." "That's not what I—" "Get out of my studio. Don't come back. Don't contact me. Don't text me pictures of your regret and expect me to care. You had 6 years to be a father. You spent them doing anything else." She walked back into her studio, back to her client, back to the work that had saved her when he'd left her with nothing. Through the glass, she watched him stand there for a full minute before finally leaving. Her hands didn't shake while she finished the appointment. They didn't shake while she cleaned her brushes and locked up the studio. They didn't shake until she got home, and Sabrina asked, "Mama, why do you look sad?" Then they shook so hard she had to hide them behind her back. "Just tired, baby girl. Want me to sing you the song that makes you feel better?" And Sabrina sang the lullaby Tabitha had sung to her every night since birth, her 5-year-old voice sweet and slightly off-key. And Tabitha cried while her daughter patted her hair and promised everything would be okay. Because the cruelest part wasn't that Mackenzie wanted to be Sabrina's father now. The cruelest part was that Sabrina had never asked for him, had never needed him, had grown up whole and happy and loved without ever knowing what she was missing. And now he wanted to walk in and make her aware of an absence that had never existed before. Tabitha wouldn't let him. She couldn't, even if it meant war. Chapter 3. The boardroom where empires collide. The invitation arrived on expensive cardstock, hand-delivered to Radiant Studio by a courier who made her sign for it like it contained state secrets. Savile Cosmetics cordially invited to present investment proposal to Harvey Capital Management. Thursday, 10 a.m., boardroom conference A, business attire required. Tabitha read it 3 times before the words made sense. Harvey Capital Management. Mackenzie's company. His family's legacy, the empire his father had built and Mackenzie had inherited, the same company she'd been courting for 6 months to take Savile Cosmetics public. She'd built her cosmetics line in secret, using her maiden name, keeping it separate from Radiant Studio. Started with a loan she'd had to beg for, mixing formulas in her kitchen after Sabrina went to bed, testing shades on her studio clients, slowly building a following of women who wanted luxury makeup without chemicals they couldn't pronounce. 5 years of work, of sacrifice, of pouring every spare dollar into inventory and marketing and lab fees. Now she had contracts with boutiques across 3 states, a cult following on social media, products that worked, that lasted, that made women feel beautiful without compromising their health or values. But to go national, to compete with the major brands, she needed serious money. And Harvey Capital Management was the best in the city, with connections to manufacturing, distribution networks, retail partnerships. She'd submitted her proposal 4 months ago, had been waiting for a response ever since. Now this. "It's a coincidence," she told Raina over the phone that night. "It has to be. With men like that, there are no coincidences. He knows." Raina's voice was grim. "Question is, what's he planning to do about it?" Thursday morning arrived with rain. Tabitha stood in front of her closet at 5 a.m., staring at the business suits she'd bought when Savile Cosmetics started taking off. Power suits, armor. She chose black, head to toe. War paint in fabric form. Sabrina watched from the bed, already dressed for school. "You look pretty, Mama, but scary pretty." "Good," Tabitha said, applying her lipstick with surgical precision. Deep red, the color of winning. "Sometimes pretty needs to be scary." The Harvey Capital Management building was glass and steel and old money, 60 stories of intimidation disguised as architecture. Tabitha's heels clicked against marble floors as she rode the elevator to the 58th floor, her heart hammering against her ribs. The receptionist was blonde and polished and smiled like she'd never had a problem that couldn't be solved with her father's credit card. "Savile Cosmetics, right this way." Boardroom Conference A was all windows and leather chairs and a table that could seat 20. 7 men in expensive suits sat on one side. On the other, an empty chair waited for her. Mackenzie sat at the head of the table. Their eyes met and the air left the room. He looked worse than he had at the studio, shadows under his eyes, his jaw tight, his hands gripping a folder like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "Miss Savile," he said formally, his voice giving nothing away. "Thank you for coming. Please, have a seat." She sat, opened her presentation folder, refused to let her hands shake. The next 45 minutes were torture disguised as business. She presented her numbers, her projections, her market research, talked about formulas and demographics and profit margins, while Mackenzie watched her like she was something miraculous and devastating at the same time. The other board members asked questions. She answered each one with precision, with confidence, with the authority of someone who'd built something from absolutely nothing and knew exactly what it was worth. Finally, the lead investor, a man whose name tag read Robert Chen, sat back with an impressed expression. "Ms. Savile, these numbers are exceptional. Your growth trajectory is frankly remarkable for a company operating with the capital constraints you've described. I think I speak for the entire board when I say we're very interested in moving forward." Relief flooded through her. This was it. This was everything she'd worked for. Then Mackenzie spoke. "Before we proceed, I need to disclose a potential conflict of interest." The room went silent. "Ms. Savile and I knew each other in college," he said carefully, his eyes never leaving hers. "Briefly. Our relationship ended 6 years ago. I wanted the board to be aware of this history before we make any decisions about partnership." Robert Chen frowned. "Is this history likely to impact your ability to work together professionally?" "No," Tabitha said immediately, her voice steel. "Ancient history has no bearing on current business." Agreed, Mackenzie said, but something in his voice was wrong, was desperate, was breaking. The meeting ended with promises to review contracts and lawyers and follow-up calls. Tabitha gathered her materials, ready to escape before she did something stupid, like throw her presentation folder at his head. "Ms. Saville," Mackenzie said as the other board members filed out, "could I have a moment?" "I don't think that's appropriate," she said without looking at him. "Please." The door closed. They were alone. "That was brave," she said bitterly. "Disclosing our history. Very ethical, very professional. I meant what I said. This is your company, your work, your future. I won't let our past sabotage what you've built." "How generous of you." "Tabitha, don't." She finally looked at him, and the pain in his eyes was so raw it physically hurt. "Don't do this here. Don't make this about anything except business. I can't separate them anymore." His voice cracked. "You walked into this boardroom and I remembered everything. How brilliant you are, how strong. How you used to talk about starting your own business someday, and I'd tell you that you could do anything, and I meant it. You meant it until it was inconvenient. I was weak. I was terrified. My father had my whole life planned, and you were chaos and passion and everything I wanted but couldn't figure out how to choose. So you chose nothing. You chose walking away. I chose wrong." He stood, moved toward her, stopped when she stepped back. "I chose wrong, and I've regretted it every day for 6 years. Do you know what it's like to live with that? To know you destroyed the best thing in your life because you were too much of a coward to fight for it?" "No," Tabitha said coldly. "I don't know what that's like. Do you know what it's like to be pregnant and alone? To go to every doctor's appointment by yourself? To hold your newborn daughter and realize you're the only parent she's ever going to have, and you have to be enough for both of you? Do you know what that's like, Mackenzie?" "I can't change the past. I don't want you to change the past. I want you to leave me alone. I want you to let me build my life without you showing up and reminding me of everything you took from me." "I gave you that money," he said suddenly, desperately. "The 50,000 from my father. I put it in a trust. For Sabrina. It's been sitting there for 3 years, growing, waiting. I didn't know how to reach you, but I couldn't do nothing." "A trust?" She laughed, and it was sharp enough to draw blood. "You put guilt money in a trust and thought that made you a good person. You thought that made up for missing her first steps, her first words, every nightmare and fever and scraped knee. No, nothing makes up for that. Nothing ever will. Then what do you want from me?" "I want—" His voice broke completely. "I want to know her name means from the cypress tree. I want to know if she likes strawberries, or if she's afraid of thunder, or what book you read to her before bed. I want to know everything I missed and everything I'm missing, and I know I have no right, but I can't stop wanting it." "Sabrina," Tabitha interrupted, her voice shaking. "Her name is Sabrina. It means from the River Severn. I named her after my grandmother who died when I was 12. She likes strawberries, but only if they're not too sour. She's not afraid of thunder. She thinks it's drums in the sky. I read her Goodnight Moon every single night because it was the first book I bought when I found out I was pregnant with her." Mackenzie's eyes were wet. "Thank you." "I didn't tell you for you," Tabitha said. "I told you so you'd understand what you gave up. So you'd know exactly what walking away cost you." She picked up her folder and walked to the door. "The board will approve your funding," Mackenzie said to her back. "I'll make sure of it. This is your dream. I won't stand in the way of it." "I don't need you to make sure of anything," Tabitha said without turning around. "I built this myself. I'll succeed myself." She left him standing there in that boardroom, surrounded by leather chairs and success that felt like failure. But as she rode the elevator down, her phone buzzed. Email from Robert Chen. "Ms. Saville, the board voted unanimously to move forward with your funding proposal. Congratulations on this achievement. Contract negotiations will begin next week. We're excited to partner with Saville Cosmetics." She'd done it. She'd actually done it. She'd won. So why did it feel like she'd lost everything that mattered? That night, Sabrina asked her the question Tabitha had been dreading. "Mama, do I have a daddy?" They were having dinner, mac and cheese from a box because Tabitha was too exhausted for anything more complicated. Sabrina had been quiet all through the meal, pushing noodles around her plate with her pink plastic fork. Now her daughter's hazel eyes, Mackenzie's eyes, looked up at her with a question that deserved an answer. "Everyone has a daddy, sweet girl," Tabitha said carefully. "That's just biology. But where's mine? Far away. Does he know about me?" The question was a knife. Now he does. "Does he want to meet me?" Tabitha's throat closed. "I don't know what he wants, baby girl. Jasmine's daddy picks her up from school sometimes. Could my daddy pick me up from school?" "Sabrina, honey." "I'm not sad," Sabrina said quickly, her little face serious. "You're the best mama in the whole world. I just wondered if maybe I could have a daddy too, like Jasmine, but it's okay if I can't." Tabitha pulled her daughter into her lap, breathing in her strawberry shampoo, feeling her small heart beat against her own. "You are so loved, Sabrina, so completely loved." "I know, Mama. I love you too." That night, after Sabrina was asleep, Tabitha did something she swore she'd never do. She Googled Mackenzie Harvey. Pages and pages of results, society photos, business announcements, charity galas with Elsa on his arm looking perfect. Then she found it. An article from 3 years ago. Harvey Capital Management CEO takes over after founder's sudden resignation. She clicked through. Gregory Harvey, 64, stepped down from Harvey Capital Management citing personal health reasons. His son Mackenzie Harvey, 31, will assume control of the family business. Sources close to the situation report that the transition was unexpected and followed a period of estrangement between father and son 3 years ago. The same time Mackenzie claimed to have set up the trust for Sabrina. Tabitha dug deeper. Another article from the same period. Philanthropist Gregory Harvey sells estate, relocates to Florida following business exit. He'd left. Gregory Harvey had actually left the city, left his company, left his son. Something had happened 3 years ago, something big enough to fracture the Harvey empire. Tabitha's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her finger swipe to accept. "Tabitha, please don't hang up." Mackenzie's voice was rough, exhausted. "I know I said I'd leave you alone. I know I promised. But you need to know something." "I don't need to know anything from you. 3 years ago, I found out about my father's check to you." She froze. "I didn't know," he continued, words tumbling out like he was afraid she'd hang up before he finished. "I swear I didn't know until I was going through company files for something else and found a copy. The memo line destroyed me. Mutual understanding. Like you were a business transaction." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I confronted him. I told him he had no right. I told him that if you'd reached out, if you'd tried to contact me about a baby, I deserved to know. We had the worst fight of my life. He said you were nothing, that you'd tried to trap me, that he'd paid you off and you'd disappeared like you were supposed to." Tabitha's hand tightened on the phone. "I told him he was a liar, that you would never have disappeared if there was a child, that you would have fought, and if you didn't fight, it was because he'd made it impossible. I gave him a choice, resign and leave, or I'd go to the press with everything, with how he'd tried to buy off a pregnant woman, how he'd hidden information from his own son, everything. He chose to leave. He chose to leave. And I've spent 3 years searching for you, Tabitha. 3 years with private investigators trying to find any trace of where you'd gone. But you'd changed your name, built a new life, become someone I couldn't track. Until you walked into that boardroom and I realized you'd been here all along, building an empire while I was looking everywhere else." Tabitha couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Mackenzie said quietly. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that when I found out about the check, I burned my father's life down. It didn't undo what I did to you, but I couldn't let him get away with what he tried to do." He hung up before she could respond. Tabitha sat in her dark kitchen, staring at her phone, her world tilting on its axis. 3 years. He'd been looking for her for 3 years, which meant he'd known about the possibility of a child for 3 years, which meant he'd wanted to find her, but wanting wasn't the same as being there. Searching wasn't the same as succeeding, and none of it changed the fact that Sabrina had still grown up without a father. None of it changed anything that mattered. Did it? Chapter 4. The email from a 5-year-old heart. Sabrina learned to use email in kindergarten computer lab. The teacher, young and enthusiastic and completely unaware of the chaos she was unleashing, taught the children how to compose messages, how to type in addresses, how to hit send. "Email is for talking to people far away," Miss Rachel had explained, "like grandmas who live in other states or pen pals in other countries." Sabrina thought about far away, about the question her mama hadn't really answered. She thought about the man in the fancy office building who'd looked at her mama like she was the sun and the moon and everything that hurt. At home that afternoon, while Tabitha was in the shower and the ancient laptop sat open on the kitchen table, Sabrina climbed into the chair, typed Mackenzie Harvey email into the search bar the way she'd seen her mama search for things, found it on his company website. Email protected. She opened a new email, stared at the blank screen, tried to remember how to spell the word she needed. "Dear Mackenzie Harvey, my name is Sabrina. I am 5 years old. I think you are my daddy. Miss Rachel says email is for talking to people far away. Are you far away? My mama is the best mama in the whole world. She does makeup and she sings me songs and she reads me Goodnight Moon every night. Do you like Goodnight Moon? I like strawberries and purple and butterflies. What do you like? If you are my daddy, why didn't you want me? Jasmine's daddy picks her up from school. Could you pick me up from school? Love, Sabrina P.S. My mama is sad a lot now. Did you make her sad?" She hit send before she could change her mind. Then she closed the laptop and went back to her coloring books like she hadn't just sent a message that would detonate both her parents' lives. Mackenzie was in a board meeting when his phone buzzed with the email notification. He ignored it. Ignored the second buzz, the third. Then he saw the sender name in the preview and his heart stopped. Sabrina Saville. He excused himself from the meeting, walked to his office on legs that barely functioned, closed the door, and opened the email. Read it once, twice, 3 times. Then he put his head in his hands and broke. "Why didn't you want me?" 5 words. 5 words from a 5-year-old who deserved so much better than the truth. His hands shook as he typed his response. "Dear Sabrina, yes, I am your daddy, and I want you to know something very important. I didn't know about you. Your mama and I were friends a long time ago, and then I made a very big mistake and left. I didn't know that you were coming. I didn't know that you existed until I saw you a few days ago. If I had known about you, I would have stayed. I would have been there for every single day. I would have read you Goodnight Moon and learned your favorite color, purple is beautiful, and picked you up from school. I like old movies and coffee and books, but I think what I would like most is getting to know you. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry your mama has been sad. That's my fault, not yours. You didn't do anything wrong. You're perfect. I'm not far away. I'm actually very close. But whether I get to be part of your life isn't up to me. It's up to your mama. She's protecting you, keeping you safe, because that's what good mamas do. Maybe someday I can meet you properly. Until then, I'm very glad you sent me this email. Love, your daddy P.S. I have a picture of my mama, your grandmother, who had eyes exactly like yours. She died a long time ago, but I think she would have loved you very much." He hit send, then immediately panicked. Tabitha was going to kill him. But it was too late. The email was sent. The truth was out there, and Sabrina deserved truth more than she deserved his fear. Tabitha discovered the emails 3 days later. She was cleaning up after dinner, wiping down the laptop keyboard, when she noticed it was still logged into her email account. Saw the sent folder. Saw Dear Mackenzie Harvey in the subject line. Her blood turned to ice. She clicked through. Read Sabrina's email. Read Mackenzie's response. Read the chain of messages that had followed over the next 2 days. Sabrina asking about his favorite foods. Him asking about her dance class. Sabrina telling him about her best friend Jasmine. Him telling her about the first time he tried to cook and almost burned down his apartment. Simple messages. Sweet. Innocent. Completely behind Tabitha's back. Sabrina! Her daughter appeared from the bedroom, still in her pajamas, her hair wild from sleep. Yes, Mama? Did you email someone without asking me first? Sabrina's face fell. I'm sorry, Mama. I know I wasn't supposed to use your email without permission. Do you understand that you told a stranger personal information? But he's not a stranger, Sabrina said, her voice small and confused. He's my daddy. You said everyone has a daddy. I just wanted to know mine. Tabitha's anger collapsed into something more complicated, more painful. She knelt down to Sabrina's level. Baby girl, I know you're curious. I know you have questions. But you can't contact people without telling me first. Are you mad at me or mad at him? The question was too perceptive for 5 years old. I'm not mad at you, Tabitha said carefully. I'm scared. I'm scared because I don't want you to get hurt. How would emails hurt me? Because people leave, Sabrina. They make promises, and then they leave. Did my daddy make promises? Tabitha pulled her daughter into a hug so tight it was almost desperate. Yes, sweet girl. A long time ago he made promises, and then he broke them. Maybe he learned how to keep them now, Sabrina said against her shoulder. Miss Rachel says people can learn to be better if they try really hard. Maybe, Tabitha whispered, but I'm not ready to find out. That night she sent Mackenzie one email. Stop contacting my daughter. This is your only warning. His response came within minutes. She contacted me first. I swear I didn't initiate this. But Tabitha, I won't lie to her. I won't tell her to stop writing to me. She deserves to ask questions and get real answers. If you want me to stop responding, you're going to have to explain to her why, and you're going to have to be honest about your reasons. Tabitha stared at the message, fury and fear warring in her chest. He was right. She could tell Sabrina not to email him. But Sabrina would ask why. And what would she say? Because I'm scared. Because I don't trust him. Because I don't want to share you. All true. All terrible reasons to give a child. The next morning she found Sabrina at the kitchen table with the laptop open. What are you doing, baby girl? Writing to my daddy, Sabrina said matter-of-factly. I'm asking if he wants to come to my dance recital next month. Is that okay? Every instinct screamed no. Screamed to slam the laptop closed and block his email and build walls so high he could never climb them. But Sabrina was looking at her with those hazel eyes, his eyes, full of hope and innocence and a question that deserved better than fear. Okay, Tabitha heard herself say. Okay. Sabrina's face lit up like sunrise. Really? Really, but I need to talk to him first. Make sure he understands the rules. What rules? That he's a guest in your life. That he doesn't get to just show up and be daddy all at once. That he has to earn his place here slowly and carefully and prove he's not going to disappear again. Those sound like good rules, Sabrina said seriously. You should email him the rules so he knows. Tabitha laughed despite herself. You're very smart, you know that? I get it from you, Mama. That afternoon, Tabitha composed the most difficult email of her life. Mackenzie, Sabrina wants you to come to her dance recital. It's 3 weeks from Saturday at the community center. Doors open at 2, performance starts at 2:30. If you come, here are the rules. 1. You sit in the back. You don't approach her before or after without my permission. 2. You don't make promises you can't keep. No talk about next time or soon or always unless you're absolutely certain. 3. You don't try to be her father yet. You're just someone who came to watch her dance. That's all. 4. If you hurt her, if you disappoint her or let her down or break her heart the way you broke mine, I will make you regret ever finding us. This isn't forgiveness. This isn't reconciliation. This is me putting my daughter's questions ahead of my own pain. Don't make me regret it. Tabitha. She hit send before she could chicken out. His response came within the hour. I'll be there. Back row. Silent. Grateful. And Tabitha? Thank you for being brave enough to let me try. I know what this costs you. I won't waste it. 3 weeks. She had 3 weeks to prepare for Mackenzie Harvey to watch their daughter dance. 3 weeks to build walls around her heart strong enough to survive seeing him again. 3 weeks to figure out how to protect Sabrina from the inevitable moment when he realized being a father was harder than he thought and walked away a second time, because he would walk away. Men like him always did, didn't they? Chapter 5. The recital that changed everything. The community center smelled like floor polish and nervous parents. Tabitha stood backstage, helping Sabrina adjust her purple tutu for the 5th time, her hands shaking despite her best efforts to seem calm. You look beautiful, baby girl, she whispered, smoothing down a flyaway curl. Is he here? Sabrina asked, her eyes bright with excitement and nerves. Did my daddy come? Tabitha hadn't looked. Hadn't let herself look. I don't know, sweet girl, but even if he's not, I'm here. Raina and Jasmine are here. You're going to be amazing. But I hope he comes, Sabrina said with 5-year-old honesty. I've been practicing extra hard so he can see how good I am. The words were a knife through Tabitha's ribs. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of. Sabrina building hopes that could shatter. Places, everyone, the dance teacher called. Tabitha gave Sabrina one last hug and headed into the audience. The theater was packed with families, cameras at the ready, the air electric with anticipation. She found her seat next to Raina in the 3rd row. He's here, Raina whispered immediately. Back corner. Hasn't moved since doors opened. Tabitha's heart lurched. Don't point. I'm not pointing. I'm just saying he looks like he's about to pass out from stress. Against every ounce of self-preservation she possessed, Tabitha let herself glance toward the back corner. Mackenzie sat alone, wearing jeans and a button-down instead of his usual suit, his hands clenched in his lap, his eyes fixed on the stage like it held the answer to every question he'd ever asked. He looked terrified. Good, Tabitha thought viciously. He should be terrified. The lights dimmed, the music started, tiny dancers flooded the stage, and there was Sabrina, 3rd from the left, her face serious with concentration as she moved through the choreography they'd practiced for months. Tabitha watched her daughter dance, her heart swelling with pride and love, and the fierce protectiveness that had kept her going through every impossible day of the last 6 years. But she was also aware, with every cell in her body, of Mackenzie's presence 2 rows back. The performance lasted 30 minutes. Sabrina's group did 2 numbers, one to a Disney song, one to classical music. She didn't miss a single step. Her pirouette was almost perfect. Her smile was genuine joy. When the final bow came and the audience erupted in applause, Tabitha saw Mackenzie stand, clapping until his hands must have hurt, his face wet with tears he wasn't bothering to hide. He looked destroyed and reborn at the same time. Backstage, Sabrina rushed into Tabitha's arms. Did you see me, Mama? Did I do good? You were absolutely perfect, Tabitha said, holding her close. I'm so proud of you. Did he come? Can I see him? Tabitha's chest tightened. He came. But remember what we talked about. He might not be ready to meet you yet. This was just about him watching you dance. But I want to meet him, Sabrina said, her voice trembling slightly. I've been writing him emails for weeks. I want to see what he looks like in real life. Baby girl, please, Mama. Tabitha closed her eyes, took a breath, made a decision that might destroy everything. Okay, but just for a minute, and I'll be right there with you. They found Mackenzie in the lobby, standing apart from the crowd of celebrating families, looking lost and hopeful and scared. When he saw them approaching, his entire body went still. Sabrina, Tabitha said gently, this is Mackenzie Harvey. Mackenzie knelt down so he was at Sabrina's eye level, and Tabitha watched something in him crack open. Hi, Sabrina, he said, his voice rough with emotion. You were incredible up there. That pirouette was perfect. It was almost perfect, Sabrina corrected seriously. Miss Rachel says I need to spot better so I don't get dizzy. He laughed, and it sounded like crying. Well, it looked perfect to me. You're really my daddy? Yes, I really am. You have my eyes, Sabrina observed. They're green and gold. Mama says they change in different light. They do. My mama, your grandmother, had the same eyes. Is she dead? You said in your email she died. Yes, sweetheart, she died a long time ago. I'm sorry. That must make you sad. Mackenzie's face did something complicated. It does. But seeing you, seeing her eyes in your face, it makes me happy too, like she's still here somehow. Sabrina considered this with 5-year-old seriousness. Do you want to come to my next recital? It's in 6 months and we're doing a whole show about butterflies. I would love that, Mackenzie said, his voice breaking. If your mama says it's okay, I would love nothing more. Sabrina looked up at Tabitha expectantly, and Tabitha, looking at her daughter's hopeful face and the man who was trying so hard not to fall apart, heard herself say, We'll see. Not yes, but not no. Progress. Maybe. That night, after Sabrina was asleep, Tabitha found Mackenzie's email. Thank you for letting me come. Thank you for letting me meet her. She's everything I didn't know I was missing, everything I don't deserve but will spend the rest of my life trying to earn. I know you don't trust me. I know you have every reason to keep me at arm's length, but I'm asking, begging, for a chance. Not for me, for her. Let me take you both to dinner. Nothing fancy, just pizza or burgers or whatever Sabrina likes. Let me try to be what I should have been from the beginning. Please. Tabitha stared at the message until the words blurred. Dinner. The 3 of them. Like a family. Except they weren't a family. They were 2 strangers connected only by a 5-year-old girl who deserved better than their broken history. But Sabrina's voice echoed in her head. I want to know my daddy. Her fingers moved before her brain could stop them. Saturday, 5 o'clock, Mario's Pizza on 4th Street. Sabrina's favorite. You're late, you're out. You say the wrong thing, you're out. You make her cry. You're dead. Don't make me regret this more than I already do. Send. His response was immediate. I'll be there at 4:30. Thank you, Tabitha, for everything. She closed the laptop and put her head in her hands. What was she doing? Opening her life to the man who'd destroyed it? Giving him access to the daughter he'd had no part in creating? But then she thought of Sabrina's face when she'd met Mackenzie. The wonder, the joy, the simple happiness of a question finally answered. Maybe this wasn't about Tabitha's hurt. Maybe it was about Sabrina's hope. Maybe she could survive being destroyed again if it meant her daughter didn't have to grow up with unanswered questions. Maybe. Saturday arrived with perfect weather, and Tabitha's nerves completely shredded. She changed clothes 3 times before settling on jeans and a sweater, nothing that looked like she was trying too hard, nothing that could be misinterpreted as caring what he thought. Sabrina wore her favorite purple dress and her butterfly clips and talked non-stop about all the things she wanted to tell her daddy. They arrived at Mario's at exactly 5 o'clock. Mackenzie was already there, sitting in a booth by the window, wearing casual clothes and an expression of barely controlled terror. He stood when he saw them, his movements awkward, like he didn't know what to do with his hands. "Hi," he said. Then to Sabrina, "Hi, princess." "I'm not a princess," Sabrina informed him seriously as she climbed into the booth. "I'm a dancer. Princesses just wait to be rescued. Dancers work hard and make their own magic." Mackenzie's smile was genuine, warm. "You're absolutely right. Hi, dancer." Tabitha slid into the booth across from him, her body rigid with tension. The next 2 hours were surreal. They ordered pizza, pepperoni for Sabrina, vegetarian for Tabitha, meat lovers for Mackenzie. They talked about school and dance class and Sabrina's favorite books. Mackenzie asked questions and listened to answers like Sabrina was the most fascinating person he'd ever met. And maybe she was. Tabitha watched him with her daughter, the way he was careful not to interrupt, the way he laughed at her jokes, the way he looked at her like she was a miracle he didn't quite believe in, and something in her chest cracked open despite her best efforts to keep it closed. This was what Sabrina should have had from the beginning. This attention, this love, this father who actually wanted to know her. And he'd missed it, missed all of it, because he'd been weak. But he was trying now. She could see him trying. "Mama, can I go play the claw machine?" Sabrina asked, pointing to the arcade game in the corner. "Sure, baby girl. Here's some quarters." Sabrina skipped away, leaving Tabitha alone with Mackenzie for the first time since the boardroom. The silence stretched between them like a gulf. "She's incredible," Mackenzie said finally, his voice thick. "Tabitha, she's the most incredible person I've ever met." "I know. You did this. You raised her to be confident and smart and kind. You did this alone and you made it look easy and I—" His voice broke. "I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry for everything I missed. Everything I made you carry alone. Sorry doesn't change anything. I know. But I need you to hear it anyway. I need you to know that not a day has gone by in 6 years where I didn't think about you, where I didn't wonder if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life." "You did," Tabitha said flatly. "You made the biggest mistake of your life, and now you're trying to fix it with pizza and apologies and cute questions for a 5-year-old. I'm not trying to fix it. I know I can't fix it. I'm just trying to be here, to be present, to be what I should have been." "For how long?" The question came out sharp, angry. "How long until this gets hard? How long until being a father interferes with your career or your life or your next fiancé?" "I'm not engaged anymore." Tabitha's heart stuttered. "What?" "Elsa and I ended things 2 weeks after I met Sabrina. I told her the truth, that I'd discovered I had a daughter, that I needed to focus on figuring out how to be in her life. She deserved someone whose heart wasn't somewhere else." "Your heart is somewhere else." Mackenzie looked at her, and the rawness in his eyes was devastating. "My heart has been in the same place for 6 years, Tabitha. It's never moved, not even when I tried to make it." "Don't," she whispered. "Don't do this." "I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling you the truth. I love you. I've loved you since we were 22, and you told me your dream of starting your own business, and your eyes lit up like the whole world was possible. I loved you when I left, and I've loved you every day since, and I'll love you until the day I die, even if you never forgive me." "Stop. I can't. Because you need to understand that this isn't about convenience or guilt or trying to play house. This is about the fact that you and Sabrina are my whole world, and I will spend the rest of my life proving that if you let me." Tabitha's vision blurred. "You don't get to walk back in and say things like that. You don't get to make me feel this way." "What way?" "Like maybe," her voice cracked, "like maybe I could trust you again. Like maybe I could let myself believe that you're different now. I am different. Losing you broke something in me that I had to rebuild from scratch. It took 6 years, and losing everything that mattered to finally become the man I should have been all along. Sabrina ran back to the table, clutching a stuffed unicorn. "Daddy, I won this, on my first try." "Daddy?" The word hung in the air between them. Mackenzie's eyes filled with tears. "That's amazing, Princess. I mean, dancer. You must have really good aim." "Mama says I get my aim from her, but my stubborn from somewhere else," Sabrina said, climbing back into the booth. "I think I got it from you." "Yeah," Mackenzie managed, his voice wrecked. "Yeah, you probably did." They finished dinner, walked to the parking lot, said awkward goodbyes. But as Tabitha buckled Sabrina into her car seat, Mackenzie touched her arm gently. "I meant what I said in there. All of it. I know you need time. I know you need proof. I'll spend the rest of my life giving you both." Then he did something that shattered every wall she'd built. He got down on his knees in the parking lot, right there on the cold pavement, and looked up at her with everything he'd ever felt written across his face. "Please," he said, "please give me a chance to earn you back. Both of you. I know I don't deserve it. But I'm asking anyway." Tabitha stared at him. This man who'd destroyed her and was now begging in a pizza parlor parking lot, and felt something inside her shift. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe the possibility of it. "Get up," she said quietly. "People are staring." He stood, his eyes never leaving hers. "We're going to take this slow," Tabitha said. "So slow it'll make you crazy. You don't get to jump into father mode. You don't get to make demands or assumptions. You get supervised visits and carefully monitored time, and I reserve the right to pull back the second I think you're going to hurt her. Okay. And this, whatever this is between us, that's dead. We're co-parents, nothing more." "Okay," he said again, but something in his eyes said he didn't believe her. She didn't believe herself either. "I'll email you about the next visit," she said. "Don't push. Don't show up unannounced. Don't try to be more than what I'm offering. I won't. I promise." Promises. He'd made those before. But as she drove away, Sabrina chattering happily in the back seat about her new daddy and the stuffed unicorn, and how she couldn't wait to email him about her day, Tabitha realized something terrifying. She was going to give him another chance. Not because she trusted him, because Sabrina deserved a father who was trying. And maybe, just maybe, so did Tabitha deserve someone who was finally fighting for what mattered, even if that someone was the man who'd broken her heart first. Chapter 6. The lawsuit that shattered glass empires. The summons arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a process server who made Tabitha sign for the envelope like she was accepting her own execution. She opened it standing in her kitchen, coffee growing cold on the counter, Sabrina eating cereal at the table. Harvey v. Seville, petition for paternity establishment and custody arrangement. The world tilted sideways. Not Mackenzie. This wasn't from Mackenzie. The filing attorney, Gregory Harvey, Mackenzie's father, the man who'd tried to pay her to disappear, the man who'd resigned in disgrace 3 years ago, he was suing her for grandparents' rights. Tabitha's hands shook so hard the papers scattered across the floor. "Mama," Sabrina's voice was worried. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, baby girl." Lie. Enormous lie. "Finish your breakfast." She called Raina with fingers that barely functioned. "He's suing me," Tabitha said without preamble. "Mackenzie's father is suing me for the right to see Sabrina." "Can he do that?" "Apparently in this state, he can, if he can prove he's been denied access to his grandchild unreasonably." Tabitha's voice was rising, panic clawing at her throat. "But I didn't even know he wanted access. I didn't know he cared." "Calm down, breathe. We'll figure this out." "How? How do I fight this? I don't have lawyer money. I put everything into the business." "Then you call Mackenzie, and you make him fix this." "I can't." "The hell you can't. This is his father, his problem, his mess to clean up." Tabitha hung up and immediately called the number Mackenzie had given her for emergencies. He answered on the first ring. "Tabitha, is everything okay? Is Sabrina? Your father is suing me." Silence. Then, what? Grandparents' rights. He filed this morning. Did you know? I had no idea. Tabitha, I swear I had no... Wait. Give me 10 minutes. Don't do anything. Don't call anyone. Just wait. He hung up. 11 minutes later, Mackenzie's car screeched into her apartment complex parking lot. He pounded on her door looking like he'd run the entire way, his hair wild, his shirt half untucked. "Let me see the paperwork," he demanded the second she opened the door. She handed him the summons, watched his face go from shock to rage to something that looked like pure devastation. "This is dated last week," he said slowly. "He filed last week and had it served today, so I wouldn't have time to stop it. Can you stop it?" "I'm going to try." He pulled out his phone, dialed a number. "Dad, call me back in the next 10 minutes or I'm going to the press with every single thing you did, every check you wrote, every threat you made, all of it." He hung up. His phone rang within 5 minutes. Mackenzie answered on speaker. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Gregory Harvey's voice was cold, clipped, absolutely unrepentant. "I could ask you the same question," Mackenzie said. "You're suing for access to a granddaughter you've never met, a granddaughter whose mother you tried to pay off?" "That's precisely why I'm suing. You've clearly fallen under that woman's influence again. You're too weak to see what she's doing, using the child to manipulate you back into her life. I'm protecting our family's interests. By traumatizing a 5-year-old with legal battles? By ensuring my grandchild knows her family, her real family, not just some gold-digging makeup artist who trapped you with a pregnancy." Tabitha lunged for the phone, but Mackenzie held up a hand. "Here's what's going to happen," Mackenzie said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "You're going to withdraw this lawsuit. Today. Within the hour. Or what? Or I release everything. The check you wrote to Tabitha, the emails where you called her the problem, the way you've spent 3 years trying to erase her existence. I'll give it all to the press, to our investors, to everyone who still thinks you're a man of integrity. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I chose wrong 6 years ago when I listened to you instead of fighting for her. I chose wrong again when I let you intimidate me into walking away. I'm done choosing wrong. So either you withdraw this lawsuit or I destroy what's left of your reputation. I'm your father. You stopped being my father when you tried to buy off the woman I loved while she was carrying your grandchild. You stopped being anything to me when you made me believe I had to choose between you and happiness." Silence on the other end, long and heavy. Then, "Fine, I'll withdraw. But you're making a mistake, Mackenzie. That woman will destroy you. If anyone's destroying me, it's my own choices, not hers. Withdraw the lawsuit. Today." Gregory hung up. Mackenzie immediately called his lawyer, put in the request to confirm withdrawal, set up safeguards to prevent refiling. Then he collapsed onto Tabitha's couch and put his head in his hands. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I'm so fucking sorry. I thought he'd given up. I thought when he moved to Florida he was finally leaving us alone." "He's never going to leave us alone," Tabitha said quietly. "Men like him don't give up control." "Then I'll keep fighting him. Every time. Forever if I have to." Sabrina appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas. "Why are you here, Daddy? Is it time for another pizza dinner?" The casual way she said "Daddy" like it was natural, like it belonged to him, made Mackenzie's face do something complicated. "Not today, Princess. I just had to talk to your mama about some grown-up stuff." "Boring grown-up stuff. Very boring." "Okay. Want to see my new coloring book? It has unicorns." Mackenzie looked at Tabitha. She nodded permission. For the next hour, she watched Mackenzie sit on her living room floor with their daughter, coloring unicorns and talking about kindergarten and listening like every word Sabrina said was scripture. This was what she'd needed 6 years ago. This presence, this attention, this man who was finally choosing right. But 6 years was a long time. And trust, once broken, didn't heal just because someone finally decided to try. When Sabrina got distracted by cartoons, Mackenzie joined Tabitha in the kitchen. "I need to tell you something," he said, "about the business funding." Her stomach dropped. "Please don't tell me your father sabotaged that too." "No, the opposite." Mackenzie took a breath. "The board approved your funding, but they had conditions. They wanted majority control, wanted to install their own CEO, basically wanted to buy your company and make you an employee." "What?" "I voted against it, alone. The board overruled me, so I—" He ran a hand through his hair. "I used my personal money to match their offer. Better terms, no control, you stay CEO. Then I had my lawyer present it to you as coming from a silent investor group." Tabitha stared at him. "The investor group that funded Savile Cosmetics going public, that was you. That was me. How much money are we talking about? 8 million, give or take." The number hit like a physical blow. $8 million. You were never supposed to know. It was supposed to be completely anonymous. But I can't keep lying to you. Even lies meant to help. You deserve the truth. Why would you do that? Because you built something extraordinary and you deserved support without strings. Because I failed you once and I wasn't going to let the business world fail you too. Because— His voice cracked. Because I love you. And even if you never love me back, even if I'm never anything more to you than Sabrina's father, I want you to have everything you've worked for. That's not love, Tabitha said, her voice shaking. That's guilt. It's both. It's guilt and love and respect and awe and every feeling I've ever had for you, all wrapped up in the desperate need to give you something you can't refuse, because I know you'll refuse everything else. I would have refused $8 million. Exactly. So I didn't give you the choice, I just did it. That's manipulative. Yes, it is. He met her eyes steadily. I manipulated the situation so you'd get what you deserved. I'm not sorry. I'd do it again. I'd spend every penny I have if it meant you succeeded. Tabitha wanted to scream, wanted to throw him out, wanted to refuse the money and the help and everything that came with strings she couldn't see yet. But Savile Cosmetics was going public next month. She had contracts and employees and commitments that depended on that funding. Refusing it now would destroy everything she'd built. He'd trapped her, with generosity, with support, with the thing she needed most. I hate you, she whispered. I know. I hate that you did this. I hate that it worked. I hate that I can't refuse it without destroying my own company. I know. And I hate that part of me. A tiny, stupid part is grateful. Because you're right. I do deserve support without strings. I just wish it hadn't come from you. I'm sorry, Mackenzie said quietly. I'm sorry I can't be anyone other than who I am. Someone who loves you too much to watch you struggle when I have the power to help. That's not how healthy relationships work. I know. That's why I'm working with a therapist 3 times a week to figure out how to untangle love from control, how to support without smothering, how to give without trapping. You're in therapy? Have been for 3 years, since I found that check. Since I realized I'd become exactly like my father, someone who used money to solve problems instead of actually showing up. Tabitha's anger deflated slightly. What does your therapist say about all this? That I'm making progress, but I still have a tendency to grand gestures when small consistency would be better. That I need to ask before helping instead of assuming I know what's needed. That love is patient and I'm really bad at patience. Despite everything, Tabitha almost smiled. Your therapist sounds smart. She's brilliant. She's also the one who told me that if I wanted any chance with you, I needed to start with brutal honesty, even when it makes me look bad, especially when it makes me look bad. So this is you being brutally honest? This is me being brutally honest and terrified you're going to kick me out and never let me see Sabrina again. Tabitha looked at him, really looked at him, saw the dark circles under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands shook slightly when he wasn't clenching them. He was a mess, a genuine, traumatized, trying too hard mess, just like her. I'm not going to keep you from Sabrina, she said finally. Whatever else happens between us, she deserves to know her father, even if her father is an over-controlling, manipulative, well-meaning disaster. That's fair, but we need new rules, better rules. Okay, no more grand gestures without asking first. No more money or gifts or help unless I explicitly request it. No more making decisions for me disguised as helping me. Agreed. And we need to figure out custody, real custody, a schedule, legal documentation, all of it. Whatever you want. Not whatever I want. Whatever's fair for Sabrina. Mackenzie nodded. Can I ask you something? Depends on the question. Do you think you could ever forgive me? Not now, not soon, but someday. Do you think there's any chance you could look at me and not see the man who left? Tabitha was quiet for a long time. I don't know, she finally said. I want to say no. I want to say the damage is permanent. But then I watch you with Sabrina, and I see someone who's actually trying, someone who's changing. And I think... She took a breath. I think maybe forgiveness isn't all or nothing. Maybe it's incremental. Maybe it's something you earn piece by piece over years. I'll take incremental, Mackenzie said softly. I'll take pieces, I'll take years, as long as there's a chance. There's a chance, Tabitha admitted, a small one, a fragile one. Don't break it. I won't. I swear. He left an hour later after coloring 3 more unicorns with Sabrina and promising to come to her next dance class. Tabitha watched his car pull away and felt something she hadn't felt in 6 years. Hope. Dangerous, terrifying, impossible hope. Maybe he really was different now. Maybe second chances were possible. Maybe she could learn to trust again. Or maybe she was setting herself up for the same heartbreak all over again. Time would tell. It always did. Chapter 7. When Everything Falls Apart. The scandal broke on a Wednesday morning, 3 weeks before Savile Cosmetics' public offering. Tabitha woke up to 17 missed calls and a text from Raina that just said, "Turn on the news, now." She grabbed the remote, her heart already sinking. The headline screamed across the bottom of the screen. Harvey Capital Management CEO accused of personal investment conflicts. Her blood turned to ice. The news anchor's voice was professional, deadly. Sources confirm that Mackenzie Harvey, CEO of Harvey Capital Management, used personal funds to finance Savile Cosmetics' public offering, the same company owned by Tabitha Savile, mother of his recently acknowledged 5-year-old daughter. This raises serious questions about conflicts of interest, company fund misappropriation, and whether Harvey used his position to enrich a romantic partner. Romantic partner. The words made Tabitha's stomach turn. Her phone exploded with calls, her lawyer, her business partners, the SEC. She was being investigated for fraud because of Mackenzie, because he'd tried to help, because his grand gesture, the one she'd told him not to make, had just destroyed everything. Within hours, it got worse. Harvey Capital's board called an emergency meeting. Investors were panicking. Someone had leaked internal emails between Mackenzie and his financial advisors discussing the Savile investment in terms that made it sound like he was using company resources to win back an ex-girlfriend. He hadn't been. The money had been entirely his personal funds, but the optics were devastating. By noon, calls for his resignation were trending on social media. By 2 p.m., Savile Cosmetics' public offering was suspended pending investigation. By 4 p.m., Tabitha's entire business was collapsing. She picked Sabrina up from school on autopilot, her phone ringing constantly with reporters asking for comments, investors demanding explanations, lawyers using words like criminal liability and fiduciary breach. "Mama, why do you look so sad?" Sabrina asked from the back seat. "Just work stuff, baby girl." "Is it bad work stuff?" "Yes, sweet girl, very bad work stuff. Can Daddy help?" The question was innocent, but it felt like a knife. "Daddy's the reason we're in this mess," Tabitha said before she could stop herself. Sabrina went very quiet. Tabitha glanced in the rearview mirror and saw her daughter's eyes filling with tears. "I didn't mean—" she started. "You said Daddy was trying to be good now," Sabrina whispered. "You said he was learning to be better. He is, baby. He made a mistake, a really big mistake. Are you going to leave him like he left you?" The question stopped Tabitha's heart. "What? You told me Daddy left when you needed him. Are you going to leave him now that he needs you?" Out of the mouths of 5-year-olds came devastating truth. Tabitha pulled over, unbuckled her seatbelt, climbed into the back seat with her daughter. "Listen to me, sweet girl. This situation is really complicated, grown-up complicated, but I promise you, whatever happens between me and Daddy, it won't change how much he loves you, or how much I love you, okay? But you're mad at him. I'm very mad at him, because he did something I asked him not to do, and now it's causing big problems." "Sometimes I do things you ask me not to do," Sabrina said, "and you're mad, but you still love me. That's different. Is it?" Tabitha stared at her daughter, this wise, perceptive, 5-year-old person who apparently understood human nature better than most adults. "No," she admitted, "maybe it's not different." That night, after Sabrina was asleep, Mackenzie showed up at her door. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, like he'd aged a decade in hours. "I resigned," he said without preamble. "What?" "From Harvey Capital, effective immediately. I gave them everything, the company, my voting shares, my seat on the board, all of it. Mackenzie, that's your family's legacy. My family's legacy is built on control and manipulation and hurting people to maintain power. I'm done with it, done with all of it." He handed her a folder. "These are statements from my financial advisors, proving the Savile investment came entirely from my personal inheritance from my mother. Not company funds, not investor money. Mine. The SEC investigation should clear you within 48 hours. And you? I'm probably going to be investigated anyway. My reputation is destroyed. But you'll be fine. Your company will be fine. That's what matters." "You threw away your career," Tabitha said slowly. "For me. I threw away a career I never wanted in the first place. My father built Harvey Capital. I just ran it because I was too weak to do anything else. Now I'm free." He laughed, and it sounded broken. "Unemployed and destroyed, but free. What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Figure out who I am without my last name attached to money and power. Maybe go back to school. Maybe start something new. Maybe just exist for a while without being Gregory Harvey's son or Mackenzie Harvey, the CEO. That's not a plan. No, it's not. It's a disaster, but it's an honest disaster, and I'm tired of being dishonest." Tabitha should have felt vindicated, should have felt like justice had finally been served, him losing everything like she'd lost everything 6 years ago. Instead, she just felt sad. "You didn't have to resign," she said quietly. "Yes, I did. Because the board was going to fire me anyway, and this way I got to control the narrative. Got to make sure you were protected." He met her eyes. "I'm not asking for credit. I'm not asking for gratitude. I'm just telling you what happened. Where are you going to live? Your apartment was company housing. I'll figure something out. Maybe a hotel for now. Maybe renting, I don't know." "That's idiotic." "Probably. You could—" Tabitha stopped herself, took a breath, regretted what she was about to say even as the words formed. "You could stay in my guest room, temporarily, just until you figure things out." Mackenzie stared at her like she'd offered him the moon. "You don't mean that." "I do. Sabrina should be able to see her father without scheduling appointments. And you—" she swallowed hard. "You just lost everything trying to protect me. The least I can do is offer you a place to sleep while you put your life back together." "Tabitha, I can't accept—" "Shut up and say thank you." "Thank you," he whispered, his eyes wet. "Thank you." He moved in 2 days later with a single suitcase and the broken pieces of his former life. And Tabitha tried not to think about what it meant that the man who destroyed her 6 years ago was now sleeping 20 feet away. Tried not to think about the way he made pancakes with Sabrina every morning. Tried not to think about the way he did dishes without being asked and left her coffee exactly how she liked it on the kitchen counter. Tried not to think about the way it felt almost normal, almost right, almost like the family they should have been all along. Tried, failed, kept trying anyway. Because this, whatever this was terrifying and complicated and absolutely not what she'd planned. But maybe the best things never were. Chapter 8. The breaking point nobody saw coming. Living with Mackenzie Harvey was nothing like Tabitha had imagined. She'd expected awkwardness, tension, careful distance and polite avoidance. Instead, she got normal. Infuriatingly, devastatingly normal. He cooked breakfast while she got Sabrina ready for school. He did grocery shopping because he needed something to do anyway. He fixed the leaky faucet she'd been meaning to call someone about for 6 months. He read Goodnight Moon to Sabrina every single night, his voice cracking on the last page because it meant something now. He existed in her space, like he'd always been there, like he belonged. 3 weeks passed. The SEC cleared Tabitha of any wrongdoing. Savile Cosmetics' public offering was back on track. Her company was safe. Mackenzie's reputation was still in pieces, but he didn't seem to care. He was taking online classes in education, talking about maybe teaching, maybe working with kids, maybe using his business degree for something that actually mattered. He was different, genuinely different. And that terrified her more than anything, because it would have been easier if he'd failed. If he'd proven himself unchanged, if he'd given her a reason to kick him out and build walls and protect her heart. Instead, he was perfect, patient, present, trying so hard it physically hurt to watch. Raina noticed during their weekly coffee date. "You're in love with him again," she said without preamble. "I am not. Don't lie to me. I've known you 6 years. I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at him when he's playing with Sabrina. That's me being glad he's being a good father. Bull. That's you being in love and terrified to admit it." Tabitha put her head in her hands. "I can't be in love with him, I can't. He broke me, Raina. 6 years ago he broke me into pieces and I spent years putting myself back together. I can't just fall apart for him again." "Who says you'd fall apart? Maybe you'd fall into something better. Or maybe I'd get hurt worse than before. Maybe. But maybe you'd be happy. When was the last time you let yourself be happy, Tabs? Really happy, not just satisfied or proud or accomplished." Tabitha didn't have an answer. That night she found Mackenzie on her apartment balcony at midnight, staring at the city lights. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked, stepping outside. "Too much on my mind. Want to talk about it?" He looked at her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "I'm falling in love with this life. This small, simple life where I make pancakes and read bedtime stories and exist without boardrooms or expectations. And it scares me." "Why?" "Because it's temporary. I'm living in your guest room. I'm here on borrowed time until I figure my life out and move on. And I don't—" His voice cracked. "I don't want to move on. I want to stay here, with you and Sabrina, forever. But I know I can't ask for that." "Why not?" "Because I haven't earned it. Because 6 weeks of being a decent father and housemate doesn't erase 6 years of absence. Because you're letting me stay out of kindness, not love. You don't know what I feel, don't I?" He turned to face her fully. "Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you feel nothing when you look at me. Tell me this is just temporary and you're counting the days until I leave." She couldn't. The words wouldn't come. "That's what I thought," he said softly. "You feel something. Maybe not love. Maybe not even close to love. But something." "I feel terrified," Tabitha admitted. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff and you're asking me to jump. I would never ask you to jump. I'd ask you to let me build a bridge, slowly, carefully, one plank at a time until you felt safe enough to walk across. What if the bridge collapses? Then I fall with you, and we build it again, and again, as many times as it takes. Tabitha's eyes filled with tears. I want to believe you, so believe me. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. It's terrifying and complicated and absolutely not simple. But the core of it is. Either you believe I've changed, or you don't. Either you believe I'll stay, or you don't. Either you trust me, or you don't. I don't know if I can trust you. Then don't. Trust yourself. Trust that you're strong enough to survive if I fail. Trust that you've built a life that doesn't need me, but could maybe want me anyway. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel his warmth, smell his cologne, see the flecks of gold in his hazel eyes. I love you, he said simply. I love you and Sabrina, and this life we're building, even though it's built on temporary and maybe and someday. I love you enough to wait years for you to trust me. I love you enough to leave if you ask me to. I love you enough to stay if you let me. Mackenzie. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to feel the same way. I just needed you to know. Needed it out there between us so we could both stop pretending. He went back inside, leaving her alone on the balcony with a choice that felt impossible. Trust or protect, risk or safety, love or survival. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, everything shattered. Tabitha came home from a meeting to find Sabrina crying on the couch, Mackenzie white-faced beside her. What happened? Tabitha demanded, panic flooding through her. I told her the truth, Mackenzie said heavily, about why I left, about being weak, about missing her first 5 years, all of it. You what? She asked. She said kids at school were asking why her daddy wasn't around before, and she wanted to know the real reason. I couldn't lie to her, Tabitha, I couldn't. Sabrina looked up with red, swollen eyes. Daddy says he left because he was scared, that he was a bad person who hurt you. Sabrina, sweet girl, I don't want a daddy who hurts my mama. Sabrina's voice was anguished, breaking. I don't want a daddy who's scared. I want a daddy who stays. Mackenzie looked like he'd been shot. Princess, I'm staying now. But you might leave again. You might get scared again and leave, and then Mama will be sad forever. I won't. You don't know that. Sabrina was sobbing now, 5 years of unspoken fears pouring out. Nobody knows that. Even Mama doesn't know if you'll stay. The truth from a child's mouth was devastating. Tabitha gathered Sabrina into her arms while Mackenzie stood frozen, his face a mask of pain. Baby girl, listen to me, Tabitha said through her own tears. Grown-ups make mistakes. Your daddy made a really big mistake 6 years ago, but people can change. People can learn to be braver. But what if he doesn't? Sabrina whispered against her shoulder. What if he leaves us again? Tabitha looked at Mackenzie over their daughter's head. Saw him breaking, saw him drowning in regret, saw him loving them so hard it was destroying him. And she made a choice. He won't leave, Tabitha said firmly, because I won't let him. Mackenzie's head snapped up. What? I won't let you leave. Not this time. Not ever again. She held Mackenzie's gaze while she spoke to Sabrina. Your daddy made mistakes. Big ones. But he's spent 6 weeks proving he's different now, and I believe him. Do you know why? Why? Sabrina sniffled. Because love isn't about being perfect. It's about trying. And your daddy tries so hard, baby girl. He tries every single day to be better, and that's what real love looks like. Do you love Daddy? Sabrina asked, her voice small. Tabitha's heart stopped. Yes, she heard herself say. Yes, I love your daddy. Even though I'm scared. Even though he hurt me. Even though it's terrifying. I love him. Mackenzie made a sound like something breaking and healing at the same time. Then why isn't he really staying? Sabrina asked. Why does he sleep in the guest room and talk about moving out and act like this isn't forever? Because, Tabitha said, her eyes never leaving Mackenzie's, I haven't asked him to stay forever, but I'm asking now. She set Sabrina down gently, crossed the room to Mackenzie, and did something she'd sworn she'd never do. She kissed him, soft, careful, full of 6 years of pain and healing and maybe. When they broke apart, he was crying. Are you sure? He whispered. No, I'm terrified, but I'm sure enough to try. Are you? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Sabrina tackled them both, her arms around their legs, her voice bright with hope. Does this mean we're a real family now? Tabitha looked at Mackenzie, saw their daughter between them, saw the future she'd been too scared to imagine. Yeah, baby girl, she said, we're a real family now. And for the first time in 6 years, Tabitha let herself believe in forevers. Chapter 9. The courtroom where truth finally mattered. The custody hearing was supposed to be a formality. Mackenzie's name on the birth certificate, joint legal custody, a visitation schedule that gave him real time with Sabrina, simple, clean, no drama. Then Gregory Harvey showed up. He walked into the courthouse like he owned it, his lawyer, expensive, ruthless, beside him, his expression cold calculation. Tabitha's blood ran cold. What is he doing here? I don't know, Mackenzie said, his jaw tight. He has no standing in this case. But he did. Somehow he did. His lawyer filed an emergency intervention motion, petition to establish grandparent visitation and temporary custody based on parental unfitness. Parental unfitness. The words hit like a bomb. They're claiming you're an unfit mother, Mackenzie's lawyer explained, her face grim. Gregory Harvey is arguing that Mackenzie's recent unemployment, combined with your business instability during the SEC investigation, creates an unsafe environment for Sabrina. He's asking for temporary custody while proper arrangements are made. Tabitha's vision went white with rage. He's trying to take my daughter. He can't win, the lawyer assured her. This is a Hail Mary, but we need to be prepared. He's going to paint you both in the worst possible light. The hearing began. Gregory Harvey's lawyer was smooth, polished, devastating. Ms. Saville, is it true that you concealed your pregnancy from Mr. Harvey? I didn't conceal. He left before I could tell him. But you never attempted to contact him after discovering the pregnancy. I tried. His father? Yes or no, Ms. Saville? Did you attempt to contact Mackenzie Harvey directly about your pregnancy? No. So you made the decision to raise this child alone without giving the father any opportunity to be involved? He walked out. Objection, Mackenzie's lawyer interjected. Counsel is mischaracterizing the timeline. The judge sustained it, but the damage was done. Gregory's lawyer moved on to Mackenzie. Mr. Harvey, you recently resigned from your position as CEO of Harvey Capital Management, correct? Yes? And you're currently unemployed? I'm taking classes, exploring new career options. So you're unemployed, living in your ex-girlfriend's apartment, with no clear plan for your future. I'm living with my daughter and her mother while we build a stable co-parenting relationship. A relationship that began only 8 weeks ago after 5 years of complete absence from your daughter's life. Mackenzie's hands clenched. Yes. And during those 5 years, did you make any attempt to find Ms. Saville? To determine if you had a child? I didn't know. Did you make any attempt, Mr. Harvey? Any effort at all to verify whether the woman you'd abandoned might need support? I hired investigators. After how long? How many years passed before you hired these investigators? Mackenzie's voice was barely audible. 3 years. 3 years. So for the first 2 years of your daughter's life, you made no attempt whatsoever to locate the woman you'd been in a relationship with? No. The courtroom was silent. Then Gregory Harvey took the stand. "Your Honor," he said, his voice measured and sympathetic, "I'm here because I love my granddaughter, a child I only recently discovered existed. My son has a history of impulsive decisions and instability. Ms. Saville has shown a pattern of secrecy and exclusion. I'm simply asking for supervised visitation rights to ensure my granddaughter has a stable relationship with her family while her parents figure out their situation." He was good. Damn, he was good. Tabitha watched the judge's expression, saw the consideration there, and felt panic claw at her throat. Then Mackenzie stood. "Your Honor, may I address the court?" "Mr. Harvey, you have counsel. I need to say this myself, please." The judge hesitated, then nodded. Mackenzie walked to the center of the courtroom, and when he spoke, his voice was steady. "My father is right about some things. I was absent for 5 years. I made no attempt to find Tabitha for 3 years after I left. I've been unemployed for 2 months. By most measures, I look like an unreliable, unstable person who has no business being a father." Tabitha's heart sank. What was he doing? "But my father is lying about why he's here," Mackenzie continued. "He's not here because he loves Sabrina. He's never met Sabrina. He's here because 6 years ago, he tried to pay Tabitha $50,000 to disappear when she was 3 months pregnant with his grandchild." The courtroom erupted. The judge banged her gavel. Mackenzie pulled out a folder. "I have the check, the emails, the documentation of every attempt my father made to erase Tabitha's existence. He didn't suddenly care about his granddaughter. He cared about control, about making sure I didn't destroy the family legacy by being with a woman he considered beneath us." "This is slander," Gregory's lawyer started. "It's documentation," Mackenzie's lawyer interrupted, taking the folder, "and we're submitting it as evidence." Mackenzie wasn't done. "I was weak 6 years ago. I let my father control my life. I chose his approval over the woman I loved and the family I could have had. I made terrible choices, and I will regret them until the day I die. But I'm different now. I chose to lose my job rather than let Tabitha's company be destroyed by association with me. I chose to publicly acknowledge my daughter even though it destroyed my reputation. I chose truth over comfort. I'm choosing differently now. Finally." He turned to face Gregory directly. "You taught me that love was weakness. That family was a business transaction. That money mattered more than people. It took me 6 years and losing everything to realize you were wrong, and I'm not letting you teach my daughter those same lies." Gregory's face was stone. Tabitha was crying. The judge cleared her throat. "Mr. Harvey Sr., do you have a response to these allegations?" Gregory stood slowly. "My son is clearly under emotional duress. The check he referenced was a business matter that has been misinterpreted. I simply believed—" "You believed you could buy me," Tabitha said, standing up. "You looked at me while I was pregnant and scared and alone, and you decided I had a price. $50,000. That's what you thought your granddaughter was worth." "Ms. Saville, please," the judge started. "No, Your Honor. I need to say this. Gregory Harvey doesn't want custody rights. He wants control. He wants to punish his son for choosing differently, and he wants to make sure I know my place. But I stopped being afraid of powerful men the day I held my daughter alone in a hospital and realized I was stronger than anyone who'd ever tried to break me." She turned to the judge. "We're not perfect parents. Mackenzie and I are figuring this out as we go, but we love our daughter. We're trying. We're showing up. And that's more than Gregory Harvey has ever done for anyone." The judge was quiet for a long moment. "I've heard enough," she finally said. "Mr. Harvey Sr., your petition is denied. You've shown no genuine relationship with the child, and the documentation presented raises serious questions about your motivations. As for custody arrangements between Ms. Saville and Mr. Harvey Jr., joint legal custody is granted. Ms. Saville retains primary physical custody. Mr. Harvey is granted substantial visitation rights to be formalized in a written agreement within 30 days. The gavel came down. Gregory Harvey stood, his face a mask of cold fury. "You're making a mistake, Mackenzie, both of you. This woman will destroy you." "No," Mackenzie said quietly. "You destroyed me. She's rebuilding what you broke." Gregory left without another word. In the hallway outside the courtroom, Tabitha finally let herself breathe. "I can't believe you submitted that check," she said. "I can't believe you stood up and called him out," Mackenzie countered. "I can't believe it's over. It's not over. It's just beginning." He was right. This was just the beginning of a family, of a future, of everything they'd almost lost. Chapter 10. The forever they finally earned. 6 months later, everything was different. Savile Cosmetics was thriving. Mackenzie was teaching business classes at the community college and loving it. Sabrina had adjusted to having her father at every dance recital, every school event, every bedtime. They'd moved into a house, small, cozy, with a garden that Tabitha had promised Sabrina they'd plant in the spring. Not Tabitha's house, not Mackenzie's house, their house. Saturday morning, Tabitha woke to the sound of laughter from the kitchen. She found Mackenzie and Sabrina making pancakes, flour everywhere, Sabrina's butterfly clips askew. "We're making heart-shaped pancakes for Mama," Sabrina announced, "because Daddy says breakfast is better when it's shaped like love." Tabitha leaned against the doorway, her heart so full it hurt. This was what she'd needed 6 years ago. This morning chaos, this casual intimacy, this family. But maybe they'd needed the pain to get here. Maybe the breaking was necessary for the rebuilding. "Earth to Tabitha," Mackenzie said, waving a spatula. "You want chocolate chips or blueberries?" "Both. Greedy, I like it." Later, after pancakes and dishes and sending Sabrina to play in the backyard, Mackenzie found Tabitha on the porch. "I have something for you," he said. He handed her a small velvet box. Tabitha's breath caught. "Mackenzie, it's not what you think. Open it." Inside was a simple silver bracelet with a single charm, a butterfly. "For Sabrina?" she asked. "For you, because 6 years ago you were a caterpillar in a cocoon, and I left before I got to see you become a butterfly. But you did it anyway, without me, and that's the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed." Tabitha's eyes filled with tears. "That's the sappiest thing you've ever said. I've been practicing. It shows." He helped her put it on, his fingers gentle on her wrist. "I love you," he said simply. "I love you and Sabrina and this life we've built. I love that you're stronger than me. I love that you saved yourself when I couldn't. I love that you let me try again anyway." "I love you too," Tabitha said. "Even though you drive me crazy, even though you still make grand gestures when I tell you not to, even though you're a work in progress." "We're both works in progress." "Yeah, we are." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Sabrina chase butterflies in the garden. "Do you ever regret it?" Mackenzie asked quietly. "Letting me back in?" "Every day." He flinched. "But," Tabitha continued, "I also don't regret it every day. And the not regretting is starting to outweigh the regretting. So I think we're on the right track." "That's very reassuring. It's honest. I'll take honest over comfortable any day." Sabrina ran up to the porch, holding a butterfly that had landed on her finger. "Look, it likes me." "Of course it does," Mackenzie said. "Butterflies recognize their own." The butterfly flew away, and Sabrina watched it go with wonder. "Will it come back?" she asked. "Maybe," Tabitha said. "Maybe not. But there will be others." "I hope it comes back," Sabrina said. "I like this one." That night, after Sabrina was asleep, Tabitha found the check, the one from Gregory Harvey, still in its frame in the back of her closet. She took it down, stared at it for a long moment. Then she lit a match, watched the paper curl and burn, watched 6 years of anger turn to ash. Mackenzie found her standing over the sink, watching the last pieces blacken. "Burning evidence?" he asked. "Burning the past. There's a difference." "Good difference or bad difference?" "Good, I think. I'm letting it go." "All of it?" "Most of it. Some of it. The parts that don't serve me anymore." He wrapped his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "I'm proud of you," he said, "for surviving, for building, for being brave enough to let me try again. I'm proud of you too, for changing, for showing up, for being the father Sabrina deserves. I'm trying. I know. That's why it's working." They stood there, wrapped in each other, watching the ashes wash down the drain. The past finally released. The future finally possible. And in the room down the hall, their daughter slept peacefully, dreaming of butterflies and gardens and the family she'd always deserved. 6 years ago, Tabitha Saville had stood in a hospital alone, holding her newborn daughter, and promised herself she'd be enough. She'd kept that promise. But now, finally, impossibly, beautifully, she didn't have to be enough alone. Now she had a partner, an imperfect, trying, learning partner who showed up every single day. And that, Tabitha decided, was worth every tear, every fight, every moment of doubt. That was worth everything,